Welcome to Extravagant Fragrances, folks. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about overhead. When you're a small grassroots company and you're starting off small, I just like to share some things that I went through and some stumbling blocks that I went through in the beginning of trying to build a small business. Now, here are just a few things you can take into consideration when it comes to overhead. Because when you look at overhead, let's say, for instance, if you're trying to open up a shop, for instance, and and this is going to my fragrance customers, but if you're not a fragrance person, then it could also apply to whatever it is that you do. Overhead now, you're talking like in some places, an easy $3,000, $4,000 a month. Just for a retail storefront, and sometimes way more than that. I've heard of way more than that. When you go into some of your major cities like San Diego or Miami, finding a retail storefront where there's foot traffic can be very, very expensive. So you have to know that you already have the foot traffic, or you have to kind of know that you're going to get the foot traffic if you're in those areas. But if you're not able to afford to be able to pay that kind of overhead, you need to become creative. And here are a few ways you can become creative when it comes down to overhead. Now, I know one guy, and I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to put his business out there and let everybody know who I'm talking about. But he was the one that actually got me started in the fragrance business. In the beginning, I think he has about, last time I talked to him, he had over 200 incense and like body oil accounts, and now I think that was years ago. So now, and he's still in this business, he's probably got maybe like 300 or more fragrance accounts. But when I first got started with him, he was starting out of a storage, and he had looked like an old broken down like bread truck or something like that, and his whole entire operation was inside this little broken down bread truck. I mean, the floor was like made of wood. The sides of the truck were kind of made of wood, and it was really rugged, but it was really pretty neat in a way. It was really neat in some kind of ways, because like when I would go into this truck, whenever I would go and purchase from him and stuff like that, there had been quite a few spills of the fragrance into the wood of the truck. So whenever you go in there, I mean, you'd have like, a couple hundred fragrances that maybe have spilled, or incense oil that spilled onto the wood, and you kind of got like this big whiff when he would open up the back of the truck in order to service you with the fragrances. So that was one thing that I liked about that. But he expanded that. I mean, we're talking, this guy is putting his kids through private school, makes good money, and is operating out of an old broken down bread truck in the storage space. And he's got, 2 to 3 employees. Most of the time he's got about 2 to 3 employees helping him out, working the business, making the incense and whatnot. So this is something, this is like one thing that I thought was very creative, was the bread truck idea. Another thing that you should look at is, like, when I first got started, I was really starting off like I could not afford any kind of storefront or a place, or not even a storage at the time. So I actually started off out of my backpack. At the time I was working in a gym, and I noticed that the guys, they would get out of the showers and stuff like that, and they would, they want to freshen up. And a lot of the people that were at the gym, they're already like into their bodies and stuff like that. So people who are into their bodies, they don't want to just like look good, they want to smell good too. So I was able to turn on quite a few customers onto the body oils, and switch a lot of them on from body oils over to from perfume sprays over to the oils. And before you know it, I had people distributing body oils out of their backpacks, right? So that's one thing you can look at, is don't knock the idea of a backpack. If you're the type that you've got good connections, you're a good networker, you're around people all day, it doesn't hurt to have a backpack. It doesn't necessarily have to be a backpack. You can have it in a little carry case. You can, put it in a makeup case if you're a female. Put it in a briefcase, whatever. So that's one thing you can look at is a backpack, or a bag, or case, briefcase, whatever. Now, when it comes down to storages, there's different kinds of storage spaces. You've got storages that are like, what is it, 100 square feet or something like that. And they get bigger and bigger and bigger, but you can get a nice size. If you're an incense maker, was it 100 square foot storage unit might work really well for you if you're making incense. Now, when it comes down to keeping your overhead low, if you've got a storage unit, like let's say something that's 100 square feet, you're looking at probably, like, in most places that I know, at least locally here in North Carolina, is like $200 a month for a nice, decent size. We're talking like a really good storage unit that is like something that you could really do a lot of stuff with. You want to make sure that if you're going to do it, you want to have your shelves set up correctly. You want to have everything organized, so that way when you go to make your incense sticks or fill your orders and stuff like that, you have everything right where you want in alphabetical order and whatnot. So that's one thing to look at. And then there's also smaller storage spaces that are like right now, this office space is a 10 by 10. Now they have storage units that are like this and smaller than this, like probably like half the size. And you can get something half this size for about, I think, $65, $75 a month. So that's one thing to look at. And again, when you move into these storage units, you want to make sure that you have you're occupying all of the space and maximizing all of the space that you can. So that's when shelves come in, right? Because shelves is utilizing all your wall space. It's not just utilizing the floor space. You're utilizing wall space, right? So when you get into like a small storage unit, keep that in mind when it comes down to keeping your overhead low. Another thing you can do is straight out of your house. Now, if you're the type of person that you're on foot and you're delivering these fragrances, you're delivering your incense, and you're going door to door, you're going from liquor store to liquor store, or smoke shop to smoke shop, or convenience store to convenience store, you can hit 20, 30 places in a day trying to sell your incense sticks or your body oil displays or whatever it is that you're selling. And there's no reason why you can't store all your merchandise in your house and prep your stuff in your house. So this is just another idea of how to kind of get away from a expensive retail location. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that for most people, a retail location would be the ultimate goal, because you're obviously getting a lot of foot traffic. But in the beginning, initially, you're probably not going to be able to afford that. So these are just some different steps you can take to get before you get to that level. Then you've got an office space. This is an office space that I've basically converted into a storefront, right? I've already got existing customers that come through. So for me, a cheap, inexpensive office space, it works out, because I already have, like I said, I already have existing customers that are coming. They don't really need to be. I don't really need to be out in a $4,000 retail location at this point. So this works out for me for now. Okay, now you're talking. Again, back to what I was gonna say though. I'm sorry. I just I go on these I get distracted real easy. Now the nice thing about the office spaces, most offices, right, are now this one I got a really good deal on per month. But the nice thing about a lot of office buildings is that there's already free Wi-Fi. You already have access to the break room. I mean, the utilities are already taken care of. You don't pay for lights. You don't pay for air conditioning. The only thing you would pay for is, let's say, if you got a phone hookup. That's pretty much it. So that's the nice thing about office spaces in terms of keeping your overhead low. If you cannot afford, a retail storefront, another idea to look at is the corner of somebody's shop. So let's say, for instance, you have products that you like to sell, and somebody who's already paying $3,000 to $4,000, $5,000 a month on a nice sized retail storefront. Maybe they're a mom and pop shop. most corporates, they don't want you in there. Yeah, should I say all corporates? You're not. That's not the kind of, they're not into that kind of thing. Corporate companies will not mess with, grassroots companies who want to just come in there and set up a little stand in the corner. They don't work like that. So you need to focus on mom and pop shops who are expanding and becoming larger businesses. And so that's one thing you could do is if there's a shop, a mom and pop shop, you can ask them, hey, listen, I'll pay you X amount of money a month because like they already have the foot traffic. And I'd like to set up a table or a counter or something like that in your store, and I'll pay you a couple $100 a month. And the nice thing is that because obviously you're going to get retail customers coming in for your business at some point, and that's going to be driving traffic to you, but it's also, you're kind of like feed off of each other's traffic. So that's another thing you can look at. Now, it doesn't have to be in the corner of someone's shop. It can be on the outside of someone's shop. You can ask to set up like a tent outside of somebody's storefront. Or a table, and just give them something every month, work that deal out, work out a good deal where it works for you, it works for them, they're getting foot traffic, you're getting foot traffic, and you're feeding off of each other's traffic. So that's something you can do. It doesn't necessarily have to be inside the store, it could be outside the store too. So think about that. Now, flea markets. Flea markets is another great way to, I was told by one guy in a perfume business, flea markets is kind of like catching fish with a net. And I've heard many stories about people selling perfumes and fragrance oils and stuff like that in the flea markets. And from what I hear, there's a lot of money to be made. Now, if you're on the East Coast where it gets cold during the year, you might want to think about something like an indoor flea market where you're able to like work on the inside, and you're able to have like a kerosene heater setup or something like that to keep you warm, during those cold days. But if you're on the West Coast, then an outdoor flea market would be just fine. As long as you have a tent and everything, you'll be just fine out there in the outdoor flea market. So that's another way to keep your overhead low, as opposed to having a full-fledged retail storefront. Then there's the door-to-door. Now, I guess that kind of goes back to, working out of a storage space because, you're able to go from store to store. You're on foot. Basically, it's like if you get 100 accounts with your incense sticks in there or your body oils in there or whatever it is that you sell, that's like having 100 stores. Right? Without you actually having to pay the overhead. You're not even, here it is, like you've got 100 stores, they're all selling your products without you even having to be there. Now, that's powerful because that's like having 100 jobs, right? When you're employed by someone and you only have one job, when that one job goes down, got rent to pay, got mortgage to pay, got expenses and utilities to pay. Now you got to go out and look for another job. But when you have a good sales business going where you have accounts set up, that's like being employed by 100 employers. And that is definitely, that's stability, okay? That's definitely financial stability. So these are just some different ideas and different ways to keep your overhead low when you're coming up in the fragrance business. And again, this doesn't just apply to being in the fragrance business. If you're in a soap craft or whatever it is that you sell, I don't know, you fill in the blanks. But these are just a few ways to keep your overhead low before you actually get into a storefront when you're a small grassroots mom and pop company. So when you get a chance, like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and please don't forget to sign up to my newsletter. I'm always releasing new fragrances. I've got some exclusives coming soon, and I kind of use that to kind of like keep everybody up to date. So don't forget to subscribe. Take care and have a great day.